Okay, guys, oh, there's another participant. Yay! Um, I had a couple other participants, but they had to drop off for work stuff. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Um, I'm Caterina Giovanni, and I have been doing feasts since about 2003. Uh, so this is freaking me out because I can't see myself. Oh, there we go. Now I can see myself. Yay! Anyway, I'm Baroness Caterina Giovanni. I'm going to talk to you today about how to prepare a feast. I've been doing feasts since 2003, and I've done probably one a year, if not more, since then, sometimes two a year or more. I've also done a number of taverns, sideboards, and luncheons. So hopefully I have some stuff that will help you guys learn some things today. And then the people that were here earlier hopefully can watch the recording. So, hi guys, those of you that are just joining, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, the very first thing that you want to do is put together your bid. And so how do you start doing that? Well, you want to decide on a theme. And to figure out that theme, you want to talk to the Baron and Baroness of the group about their preferences, or if you're doing a kingdom feast, maybe you'd want to talk to the king and queen about that. You would also talk to the potential autocrats about their theme ideas, because they may, excuse me, have submitted a bid with a theme, and then, of course, you want to try to match that theme. So, kind of self-explanatory, makes a lot of sense. On the next page, after you get your theme set, you want to research your recipes. So where do you look to do that? I always recommend that people look at period cookbooks, mundane cookbooks, cooking websites, and medieval cooking blogs and sites. So I know a lot of people would probably say, well, mundane cookbooks and cooking websites, those aren't period recipes. You're right, they're not. But I subscribe to the fact that you don't have to do period food. Period-esque is good. Of course, you wouldn't want to serve something that they wouldn't have had. But in my opinion, people are sitting down to eat feast, and you want them to enjoy that food because they spent good money on it. It's kind of a good top off to their day if it's a good feast. So, this isn't an A&S competition. This is a feast, and you want them to enjoy their food. Likewise, you want to talk to their excellencies or their majesties about their likes and dislikes of food, because you don't want to serve fish and then find out that Her Excellency hates it or is allergic to it. So make sure you do that when you're looking through and researching your recipes. Okay, so after you research your recipes, you want to go ahead and put together your menu. And so a typical menu, especially for like an Ansiwan feast or Meridian feast, which are the two places that I've done feasts, I'm sure it's different other places, we do 4 courses. And those courses will typically be, the first one is some kind of soup, bread, cheese, things like that. It might be a salad if, the feastocrat wants to do a salad. Your second course would be one type of meat, starch, and veggies. So then your third course would be a different type of meat, starch, and veggies. And then your fourth course would be a dessert. That's plenty of food typically. No one's going to walk away hungry as long as you make sure that your portion sizes are big enough. And so I typically calculate a quarter pound of meat per person per type of meat. So if you have 2 meat courses, they'll get a half a pound. in between all the bread and veggies and desserts and everything else, that's typically enough. So once you get your menu put together, you want to create an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document of all the things that you need to purchase. And so that is going to include all your ingredients, the quantities of your ingredients, so how much you need of each thing, and a place to enter the cost. Excel is good because you can have it, auto-calculate things for you if you know how to use the formulas. Some people are less comfortable with that, and then a Word document works just fine in that case as well. So after you create your Excel spreadsheet and you know how much of each thing you're going to need to buy, you want to go ahead and go in and go do your pricing. So a lot of people ask me, where do you price your ingredients? I recommend that you price at a number of places, as you can see from the screen. Sam's Club typically has some good prices, and you can buy in bulk there. So that's, a nice added value. Of course, you do have to buy a membership, but if you're doing a lot of cooking for the SCA, that's not really that big a deal. Walmart has some great prices. They might not be the best quality, so you have to be careful with that. Asian markets a lot of times have stuff that you can't find other places, so that's really nice because you can go check them out and see what they have available. Aldi typically has some great prices and some good quality, so I recommend checking them out as well. And my personal favorite, the Chef Store. The Chef Store has been a lifesaver for me doing feasts. Not only do they have good quality, they have bulk, they have the best prices that I've seen for the majority of things. They've helped me come in under budget on so many feasts, and that's really nice to be able to come in under budget. Is there a membership required for the Chef Store? Ether says, no ma'am, there is not. Unlike Sam's, there is no membership required, so that's one of the nice things about it. Unfortunately, I don't think that chef stores are that prolific. I don't think there are that many of them around us, but I know that we have one here in Oklahoma City, so that's really nice for if you live anywhere near here, you can come and shop here. And then also, I tell people now, there's a lot of online shopping that we didn't used to have that opportunity to do before. And I've found some great prices online. You just have to be careful and make sure that the shipping costs aren't too expensive. And you need to factor that in when you're comparing your prices, what that's going to cost. You also need to note when you need to ship it in order to get it there in time for your feast, because that would be really bad if you ship it and then it comes in a week after your feast. So just things to keep in mind. But once you get all your pricing done, you compare all those stores and you find your best prices. Go ahead and plug your prices into that Excel spreadsheet or the Word document, whatever you've created, and then you'll be ready to move to the next step, which is going ahead and putting together your bid in a Word document to submit to their excellencies or the crown, depending on who you're doing your feast for. So in your bid, you need to include your menu and pricing. Don't forget to include your pricing for things like dish soap, paper towels, kitchen supplies, things like that. Those items you also want to check with the autocrats, because the autocrats may have included those in their bid, and then you don't want to double charge if they have enough for you to share. Or the autocrats may know that the site provides you with paper towels and kitchen cleaning supplies, so you don't need to charge for those as well. You also don't want to forget about your comps that you need to include for your feast crew, servers, and champions. And on that point, it's important to check with your seneschal and or the financial committee about who's included in that. Typically what I tell people is, say, okay, I'm going to sell 100 feasts and then I'm going to have 25 comps. So what that means is your budget is going to be $1,000, right? If you're charging $10 a head, but then you're going to have to cook for 125 for that $1,000. And typically now, not so much when I first started doing feasts, but um, when I first started doing feast, it was kind of okay. Feast is a nice added bonus, and we're not going to worry about making money off of it. And now it's become a no. Sites are more expensive. Our event profits are getting smaller. We need to go ahead and see if we can make at least a couple $100, profit on feast. So just to keep that in mind when you're doing your bid. And then another thing you want to do is think about your feast token idea. And you want to include that cost for the feast token. You might check with the autocrat. They might have already included that. If they did, great. If they have an idea for something that they want to do, then you don't have to worry about that. But it's, something that will have to be budgeted for somewhere in the event bid. And typically I just do like a little menu of the, menu of the feast for them to have at the table, and that's their site token. You can also include the recipes on there if you want, and then that helps because you don't have people coming up to you, half an hour or 15 minutes before the event going, oh, hey, I'm allergic to cinnamon. Is there any cinnamon in these recipes? And you're like, hey, it's all on your little site token, feast token, whatever. Yeah, Uther says you still will, and she's right. They won't read it, and then they'll come and say, hey, I'm going to die if I have cinnamon. Is there cinnamon in your feast? And you just want them to go away at that point, but you have to say yes or no or whatever. Okay, so after that, you want to look at the positions that you need to fill. And those are specifically your feast crew positions. And so that would be people like your head server. Sometimes it's good to go ahead and get your head server planned out ahead of time. Talk to someone that's done it before and be like, hey, I'd love to have you do this for me. I'm putting in a bid. Would you be willing to? Because they're going to help coordinate your servers and make sure everything goes smoothly. You also want to ask someone about being an expediter. The expediter is the go-between between the kitchen and the servers. So you don't have the head server coming up to you in between plating. They're going to the expediter and getting all that figured out from there. A hall steward, that person would set up the tables and chairs for you, decorate the hall if another decoration person hasn't already done that, and announce your courses during the feast. And then something a lot of people don't think about, but it's a really good idea to go ahead and put in your bid, or if you've already submitted your bid, after your bid, have your feast cleanup crew people. Because if you've been in the kitchen all day cooking, it's really not a good idea for you to be the people cleaning up too. Now you're still responsible for things being clean, and so you can't just leave and say, oh, well, the cleanup crew was supposed to do it. You have to, do a quality check and make sure they did a good job, but get some help. It's a good idea to get help. So we'll talk about all of that a little bit more later. So, okay, you've got your bid done, you turn your bid in, you get the bid. Yay! Awesome. So now what? Now what do you do? So the first thing you should really do is sit down with a calendar and put together your timeline. And that's your timeline up until feast. So, you want to practice your recipes, so you're going to plan a test feast. That test feast will be you inviting some friends over to test your recipes and ask them for honest feedback. Ask people that you can trust to give you, some good feedback. If their excellencies or their majesties live close to you and you're doing, an event for them, invite them because it's their event. they should get a say in what the food tastes like. And then keep all of your recommendations noted somewhere, like in your on your recipes. You can write it. Use less salt, needs more garlic, don't cook the full hour, whatever it is that you need to put on there. You also want to put together a pre-cook schedule. So part of that, you're going to decide what you're going to pre-cook and what you're going to cook on site. Some items that freeze and thaw well are a lot of desserts, meats, soups, and stews. And then items that are better to cook a few days before or at site would be breads, veggies, and starches. So taking that into consideration, set up your pre-cook schedule, count back from the event to determine when you need to start that, how many days you need to pre-cook each thing. Once you have that schedule set, stick to it, because if you don't stick to it, you're going to be panicking a day or two before the event. And remember, anything that you pre-cook is one less thing that you have to cook at site. If it's supposed to be warm, of course, you're still going to have to heat it up, but that still will save you some time and headache and all of that good stuff. You also want to plan a day for making your feast tokens, unless that's something that your autocrat says, no, I've got it, and I'll do that while we're making the side tokens. If you are in charge of making your feast tokens, plan a work day to do that. Many hands make light work. There's no reason that you yourself as the feastocrat, or you and your co, if you have a co, need to do all of that by yourself. Lots of people would be happy to help if you ask for help. And lastly, make a site visit to see the kitchen. If it's a site you haven't been to before, this is especially important, because you want to see, what the kitchen looks like, how many ovens they have, take note of things that are working and are not, take note of what supplies they have there. Do they have pitchers and serving stuff and, big pots and pans, or do you need to take all of that with you? Even if it is a site that you've been to before, go ahead and go do a site visit if you can. If, their excellencies and the autocrats are going, try to tag along, because things may have changed. Not that long ago, they completely redid Camp DeConnie's kitchen, and now it's all basically just a warming kitchen with some convection ovens. So you want to know that before you get there that day, for sure. Yeah, as Uther said in the chat, sometimes your kitchen turns into a laundry room, so you never know. You want to make sure that you know the deal when you get there. So, okay, you have done all your pre-cooks, and it's time to pack up to go to the event. So, packing up. Pack up your coolers with plenty of ice, and pack up any kitchen supplies that you think you might need. If you've made your site visit, you should have a list from that. If you didn't make a site visit, you didn't have an opportunity to, for whatever reason, don't just assume that the kitchen has it, even if they had it in the past, because they may not. Some of the things that I take with me when I do feasts, knives, bowls, food processors and mixers, cookie sheets, crock pots and roasters, bread machines, cutting boards, stand mixers, measuring cups and spoons, serving utensils and platters, and everything that you take from your house, make sure it has your name on it. I have lost so many of my own personal kitchen supplies because before I realized I needed to put my name on stuff, I didn't. And, it's nobody's fault. People were helping you clean the kitchen, or your cleanup crew's going, and they think it belongs to the site. And you get home and you're unpacking and you're like, hey, where's such and such? Well, it probably was assumed that it belonged to the site, so it got left there. So just take it from me, make sure you put your name on everything. Okay, so you get to site. It's Friday night, hopefully, as long as it's not just a day event. If it's a weekend event, you should try to get there Friday, so that you can get yourself organized. The first thing you want to do is clean and organize your kitchen. Some kitchens are, nice and clean and ready to go. You might just need to wipe down the counters to ensure they're sanitized. Some might need a little TLC. Luckily, I've never been to one that was a complete wreck, but I have heard stories. So just make sure you check out your kitchen when you get there. Put away your perishables as quickly as possible and make sure you know where everything is. Post copies of your menu around the kitchen for your kitchen crew. That's important because people will keep coming up and asking you, wait, okay, what's the first remove? What's the second remove? Or course, or whatever you're calling it. And this way you can just say, oh, hey, the menu's posted on the wall. Go look. Post copies of your recipes. When someone comes to ask you what you need done, if you tell them, hey, I need you to start the chicken, you can say the recipe's posted on the wall. Go take a look at it. If there's anything you don't understand, come let me know. But at that point, if they have cooking experience, they should be pretty good to go on what they're doing and be pretty self-sufficient at that point. You could just check in with them, from time to time and make sure that they're on the right track. Meet with your kitchen crew because you want to create a timeline for the day on Saturday. So to establish your timeline, you're going to count back from when feast is. Say, okay, feast is at 6, so the chicken has to cook for 2 hours, so we probably want to start it at 3:30 just to be safe and get a timeline of when everything needs to be started. And then you want to post that timeline around on the walls in your kitchen as well, so that when somebody comes and says, okay, this is done, what's next? You can say, oh, go check the timeline for me. It's 1 o'clock, see what we're supposed to start next. And that way you're not trying to do math constantly and you're going, oh, I can't remember. I think it's already there for you. And lastly, remember to take time to relax and enjoy yourself a little bit at the event. You're probably going to have more time to do that Friday night than you are Saturday if you're there for the whole weekend. Remember to stop and take time to eat and drink. Make sure you're having plenty of water. Even there have been times when I was, being very careful about, I need to drink water, and making sure I was. I've gotten migraine headaches from dehydration after doing a feast because you're just going. And then, I end up getting sick that night because I have a horrible headache. So you don't want to do that if you can avoid it. Okay, so it is almost time for feast. It's about an hour before. What do you want to do? You want to check in with your expediter and your head server to go over the menu, to go over how things are going to go, and to answer any questions that they may have. You want to make sure that your head server meets with the other servers, has a little, get together before to make sure they know what they're doing. Most kitchens have an entry and an exit. If you can set it up that way, set it up, okay, you guys are going in on the right, going through the kitchen, getting your platters, and going out on the left. Keep them doing that so that they don't run into each other and drop your platters on the floor because you may not have enough food to remake those platters. So establish, things like that. Your expediter should handle the servers getting the trays. That's what they're supposed to do. And your head server should handle any issues as far as the servers go. They should assign someone to serve head table. That should be someone that is experienced so that they kind of know what they're doing. And so that, they know head table always goes first. Head table should always get the best looking food and the prettiest looking platters. So, kind of keep those things in mind. And let's see. So then you're going to start plating. So when you start plating, ideally you'll have a couple people in there to help you. Your co, if you have one, a couple other people to help you. Don't try to do it all yourself. That's a lot to do. You're probably going to have 12 platters per course that you got to get plated. Make sure you make it pretty. Make sure you have plenty of platters and bowls for each remove way ahead of time. Don't try to do it an hour before it's time to do your feast. Typically sometime in the afternoon, I'll take one of those water breaks and sit down for a few minutes and go through all of my platters and bowls, and I'll just set out on a long table. Okay, here's course number 1 with enough of everything, course 2, 3, 4, and then they stay there until we're ready to start plating. So that when we go to get those platters for plating, it's all right there in an order, and you're not scrambling to find it at the last minute. You say, okay, that first stack is course 1, grab them and let's get started. Communicate with your crew. They're there to help you. Tell them if you need help. Don't let yourself get overstressed. Try to, stay calm and rely on the people that are there to help you. Delegate things to them as you can. Keep in constant contact throughout the weekend with your expediter and your head server. And just remember to breathe because you will get through it. It's going to go great. You just have to try to stay calm and breathe. All right, so yay, you're done. The feast is over. It was fantastic. Everybody loved it. They're all coming to tell you how great it was. You got called out, in front of everybody during court or at the end of feast or whatever, and so did the rest of the kitchen crew to get their little accolades of job well done. So now what? Now you need to give good directions to your cleanup crew. Your cleanup crew should be the ones to clean the kitchen, but as I said before, you are ultimately responsible for the kitchen being clean. So you need to tell them what needs to be cleaned. You also need to tell them what's yours and what is Site's, so that they can make sure to keep that stuff separate. It's not a bad idea to be in there with them if you're not too exhausted. If you need to go sit down for a little bit and take a break, that's understandable too, but don't just disappear. You should be close by in case they have questions until they're done. Because you're also going to want to go in when they are done and do a quality check. Make sure everything's cleaned the way it needs to be and is satisfactory, and then have them help you packing things back into tubs of the stuff that you brought. If you're really feeling ambitious, or if it's just a one-day event, you can also get them to help you load stuff back up into your trailer to take home, or in your truck, car, whatever you happen to have. If you don't need to do that night, you can do it the next day. Just leaving it in your totes in the kitchen is fine, and then you can pack it up the next day before you're going to go home. Lastly, go and relax. You did a good job. Take a break with your friends at the event if you have, the rest of the day and don't have to leave until the next day. If it's just a one-day event, go home, put your feet up, relax, and enjoy it. We didn't talk about this, but it's definitely important to try to get some good sleep the week before, the night before, and then you're probably not going to have any problems sleeping the night after the feast because you're probably going to be pretty tired. Oh, and wear good shoes. I didn't say that either. You should definitely want to wear good shoes, comfortable shoes, because you're going to be standing a lot. So that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions about everything that I just spewed at you?
Are there any, you might have just, I was late, you might have already said this, but are there any foods or proteins or things that you would not want to put in your feast?
Any proteins, is that what you said?
Yeah, is there anything that you definitely wouldn't want to put on your menu?
Yeah, so I typically shy away from seafood, shellfish, fish. It's expensive, so doing it within your budgetary constraints is going to be difficult. Not a lot of people in the SAA, for whatever reason, like it. So you might not get, you might have a bunch and then it doesn't get eaten, which is sad. And then the other thing too is, I mean, I'm sure this is true with everything, but you see people, especially with seafood, that are anaphylactically allergic to it, even if it's just in the air. So if I'm cooking, shrimp or whatever, this, newcomer is there and doesn't know that I'm cooking that because they haven't looked at the menu and now they have to go to the hospital or go home. That's not good. So I typically tell people to shy away from that. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope everything made sense. If you do think of other questions, feel free to, shoot me a message on Facebook. Uh-oh. Jane says I can't unmute my button. Let me see if I can unmute you. I can. It says I can.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay. So, in light of the new COVID thing, you're talking about doing feasts or lunches or whatever as like a bento box. You basically you have everything in this box. Here you go away. And don't sit near anybody while you eat, right? So, what ideas? Can you give me some ideas? I was thinking for like a lunch, a small sandwich, getting something, a container that's cheap from like a restaurant supply that's, that can be squashed into relatively small, compact, into a cooler. But what else would you put in there besides, say, for a lunch menu, besides a sandwich?
You can do things like salads. You can do tacos. There's many things that have dry components to them that you can use. So like say if you have like your base starch is going to stay on one side, the thing is though, a lot of people, especially kids, they don't want their food touching. So, trying to create just make sure you're selecting the correct box for what your needs. Or say if you have something wet, like say if you have, say, tacos, you want to serve like, a wetter bean and rice, you necessarily don't want the beans to get everything else all wet. And so, but there's totally, you can do any kind of soups. I'm sorry, I'm completely just stopping a lawyer thing, Kat.
You're fine. You said basically a lot of the things I was going to say. I was going to say salads, fruit, cookies, or some sort of dessert. Yeah, there's a bunch of different things that you could do. One thing that, comes to mind is like a tapas style thing. So it's smaller bites. So they fit into those little segregated containers well, because that's going to work better than like great big huge portions. So.
Right. I wouldn't make anything on site. It would all be prepackaged and ready. Sort of like I hate to make this comparison, but when you're on an airplane and everything's just right there in its little container.
No, that makes sense.
But you really
definitely.
think salad would be, you rip it up and squash it in there, that people would be okay with that?
Another thing you have to think of too, like ahead of time, like even if you want to do like little fruits and vegetables, don't forget about little plastic bags. Little snack bags are your friend.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
And so if you have an item that everyone might want or things you might sell separately, like say like I always do boiled eggs, and because they're a quick grab and go thing for a lot of people, and people tend to like eggs on their own. You just boil them up, peel them and put them after you shell them and stuff. Just put them put two in a bag. They're ready to go. You can hand them out.
Chunks of cheese too.
Yeah,
like little chunks of cheese cut up, olives. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Celery sticks, carrots. All things easily gone into a bag, and so you can just put the salad. I mean, if you want, I can feel free to add me on Facebook or whatever, and I can show you how to cut up lettuce and stuff like that, nice and small and easy and fast. You can also just YouTube it too as well.
I think the person who's talking, it says it's an Uther.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Who am I talking to? Who's inviting me to friend them?
It's Gina Laurie. I'm the Gina Laurie Jones. Actually, my show is Johnson. It's been a Gina Larie. I'm hard to miss. I'm like the only Gina Larie's ever, and so I even got my first name on Gmail. That's how few there are.
Okay, great, thank you.
So that's interesting though, because I hadn't looked at this class and redone it for anything COVID wise. So I'm talking about, plating big portions, which is what we do right now. And yeah, you'd have your, serving utensils and stuff, but you're right. Likely the next few feasts done aren't going to be able to be done that way, where
No,
we
not
just
at
send
all.
a big platter out to the table because that's what we've always done, and that's
Yeah.
not going to work.
Here's your lunch bag, go away. Far.
Sometimes it's less like, so even if like for proteins, I would highly suggest slicing or using cutting meat. I mean, you can use a lot less. People don't normally eat all the stuff, and two, it provides more convenience for others.
Yeah, we did a feast once when we very first started doing feast in Meridia's, and the whole idea of that feast was little bite-sized things that were individuals. So we did like individual little fruit cups, like in the little ice cream cone cups with different kinds of fruit in there. We did an individual cheesecake. We did individual little quiches. I'm trying to think of what else we did. Like little meat on a stick. We were trying to think of like the Travelers Fair kind of stuff, that they could have eaten while they were walking. And so that we might have to go to back to that sort of idea as far
Yeah.
as feasts are concerned, rather than the big heaping platters of food that 8 people at a table share.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give everybody a Lunchable.
No.
But I could. I totally could. And I'd be like, this is clean.
No.
I know it's clean, so take it.
Lunchables have their place.
It can just be a prettier, fancier Lunchable.
Yeah, how do you dress that up and make it attractive in a medieval-ish setting while not
fancy salt?
fancy
Yeah.
salt?
Well, meats, you can have fancier meats and cheeses and nice breads with maybe some little different butters, maybe some nice mustards that you've done.
Flavored
a lot of
oils.
the Lunchables have a little dessert, like it's usually like a cookie or a little, candy bar or whatever. You could do some nice little tart for your dessert. So yeah, there's things that you can do and just kind of dress it up a little bit and make it a little bit nicer.
What kind of package? I mean, a plastic package from a restaurant supply place that your meal usually comes in. It's just, it's hideous, but it's clean.
It's functional. And I feel like right now, functional and clean and safe are more important than pretty.
Maybe I should just spray paint a nice medieval stencil on the top of each one.
Even something like that, you have to be really careful.
Idea.
Like, because you don't want to put something like that on any kind of contact food service because you don't know if that's
you don't
an
want
edible
leaching,
thing.
Yeah, you don't want it leaching through to your food. That would be
I'm
bad.
sorry.
No, that's a good idea. That would
right.
probably stink it up. Even if I put the whole thing in a cooler, it would probably stink up the food.
Oh, it would.
But you know what I mean. How can you make this an attractive thing while basically handing, here's your portion.
Right.
Thank you. You had turkey, you had ham. It's all pre-reg. Everybody else is going to get whatever comes next, and it's hard to know on portion sizes because when you're out, you're out.
Yeah, and that's more of like a tavern kind of thing. Because usually with a feast, you're going to sell 100. And so then, boom, I've done 100, I'm done. But yeah, for a tavern, you just get what you think you're going to sell. And then,
I mean, I would even go as far as say, like, our feasts for the next 2 years are going to be much smaller. We're not going to have these massive 120 feast. You're going to probably, I would say, if your Barony is smart, you're going to pre-sell feast. You're going to have your comps. And I would say make maybe a few more just to make sure you have enough to cover your staff. Like, just kind of treat.
And I mean, if we tried to do a sit down, you'd have to have it be separate tables for, families, basically. and there'd have to be places in between. And yeah, I just don't think it's
Right.
doable
It's
right
different.
now.
It's different ideas of bad. So,
Yes.
and so I would really say like anything more than like 40 or even 60 is really kind of scary if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because the more hands you have inside cooking your dishes, the more chances, they call it your critical control points, and that's how you want to make sure your food stays safe. And it's keeping a track on there, making sure that everybody is well the best you can before they're touching and contaminating, bringing in another known contaminant.
That's part of my food safety 101 class. No sick people in your kitchen. If they are sick, they gotta go. If you're sick and you're the feastocrat, guess what? Don't go to the event. Find somebody to take over it for you, because this is even before COVID, guys. I mean, just we've seen people get the flu from SCA events where people went and didn't know they were sick, or knew they were a little sick maybe, but didn't know they had the flu. And then
Like Winter Kingdom, that was the
Yep.
plague giver this year.
That's the one I was talking about. So,
Oh well.
it happens. It happens. But with COVID, we have to be more careful because, most people, if they get the flu, yeah, it's going to be bad and unpleasant, but they're not going to die. Well, COVID is a little more serious than that.
Yeah, that's the $1 million hospital bill.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you for contributing to my guesswork.
Sure, you're very welcome. And thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about, I'm just going back to regular feast, but that's really something that we're all going to have to think about and going to have to consider at least for the next little while. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. I might be looking at bento boxes a little too much on Pinterest.
There's some great ideas in there. I am all about my current project is really trying to sneak in a couple of things that are a little different into like a tavern. Like I was telling my husband earlier, I would love the one day just throw in some fried plantains and see if people love it, and throw in a little just to add in a little bit more cultural flair to get people a little more interested into stuff like that. And eventually I can throw in an actual African feast sometime. But that's my dream. But I was wondering if I haven't, I keep on meaning to, but my life has been kind of blown up lately. Mm-hmm. If anyone has like addressed how they like things change as far as like water bearing. I know right now it's doing absolutely zero. Things like are they still doing drink dispensers? Is it one person controlling it or anything along those lines?
So, Honorable Lady Sorsha did a class on water bearing in the COVID age. And if you go to our virtual academy group and go to her event for that, her video is posted, and it's a great class. It's really, down in the weeds about what you would have to do water bearing right now to keep people safe. And it would be reduced a lot. It would not be, people taking around squirt bottles. It would be people bringing their mugs to the event, and then we would have gots put out with the water, and people could bring their mug up, but then one person is manning those gots and making sure that the mugs aren't touching the spigots, and if they do touch the spigots, that we have stuff there to clean them. We're talking no shared snacks of any kind. It would be scaled back significantly, and then as things get better, we're like, okay, you could potentially do the shared snacks, but you would need tongs, and a lot of times kids are water bearers. Well, not really right now. It's not really safe unless they're like older kids that really understand what they're doing and can handle the tongs and not sword fight with them with their friends and get them contaminated and all that.
Right. No, it's not that it's just the kids. It's adults too. I mean, I've been caught, sword fighting with my tongs in the past.
I hear you. So yeah, but you should go check out her class. It's a great class. She's got a lot of good suggestions in it. So.
Okay, thank you so much for your class today. And
you're welcome. Thanks for coming, everybody. And like I said, if you have any further questions, feel free to give me a holler.
This is recorded, right?
Yes, ma'am. It
Okay,
sure
just
is.
I was late.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kat.
Thanks.
Miss you.
Miss you too.